Hi everybody. This is instead of my normal Tuesday Facebook post. I normally do a Facebook Live video every Tuesday. This week my schedule does not allow for it. I had to move it to Monday. Every time I do social media or interact with people online, I intentionally keep things very happy. I talk about quilting and chocolate cake and Hello Kitty and very fun and light stuff like armrest wars when I'm traveling. Today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to pull back what I normally talk about, and I'm going to tell you some truth that's been going on in my life that I haven't told you about. So it's a very different Facebook post. Next week, I'll be back with normal Facebook and normal quilting, but I needed to let you in on a few secrets I've been keeping from you. I apologize. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget much of it. Quilting has been my passion for over 30 years. I enjoy the creativity, the relationships, and my life as a quilt industry professional. In recent years, though, I've learned the hard way just how important quilting is to me personally. These years have been hard to live through, and it may be hard for you to hear about them, but I'm going to ask you to stick with me because it's not all doom and gloom. 8 years ago, while I was working at a booth at the Vermont Quilt Festival, my left ear got a sore on it, and it was very red and very painful and very swollen. And then eventually it blew up into a whole cauliflower ear. I got to the doctor whenever I came home from that trip and confirmed I have a cauliflower ear. We drained it and he wanted to do surgery. After I had to convince him that I wasn't the victim of domestic violence. My dear, sweet, super hubby has never raised his voice, let alone his fist. So once they knew I had a medical problem, they were going to do surgery on my ear. But my son was getting married that week, and I didn't want compression bandages on my head. So I've lived with a scarred and deformed ear for the last 8 years. I had very long hair and it covered it, and I just, moved on with my life. 5 years ago, this week, I got another sore on that ear. I was working in New Hampshire and I was really, really upset. So what's going to happen now? Is my ear going to blow up and be red? What happens if a cauliflower ear cauliflowers again? I don't know. And while I was worrying about that, it never did cauliflower. It's just excruciatingly painful and red and hot and swollen. But while I was dealing with that, I began to feel like I had been hit by a truck and everything in my body hurt more than I've ever felt pain in my life. I lived on really unhealthy amounts of Advil just to try and function. So I taught, I traveled, and when I was at home, I quilted just to try to avoid thinking about the pain, just for some distractions. So for several weeks, I spent my days teaching long arm quilting, and I spent my evenings in various hotel rooms researching online what could be happening to my body that I started falling apart all of a sudden. I'm a very, very good researcher, but I doubted my skills whenever all of my research pointed to an extremely rare autoimmune disease called relapsing polychondritis. This disease attacks and destroys cartilage in your body, and the human body has much more cartilage in it than you think. It's your ears, your eyes, your nose, your lung, your heart, your trachea, your esophagus, and your blood vessels and many organs in your body. There was very little information about this disease available online, and what was there was incredibly frightening. So I continued to teach and continued to travel, but my health continued to decline. I took my first flight to Australia, and the sores that had been on my ears were now on my nose. And by the time I got home from Australia, they had healed, but I now have a very floppy nose on the side. I felt like my ears and nose were just melting off of my face, and I honestly was a little bit petrified. So I started to research what sort of doctor treats this rare disease that I can't possibly have because it's rare and no one has it. And I called and made an appointment. and I waited because this is a specialist. My life was very, very simple at that time. I worked, and when I wasn't working, I laid in bed trying to deal with the pain and prayed for my appointment to come sooner, and it did. The doctor had a cancellation, so I was seen in less than 2 weeks. During my first visit, I told the doctor what was happening to me and what I had found out online. I was really scared she was going to say, "Go home, crazy lady, and stay off of WebMD." But to my surprise, she agreed with my research, and she wanted to treat me aggressively right away. Now, if I thought the disease was scary, the treatment was even scarier. She wanted to suppress my immune system so my immune system wouldn't attack my body. I wanted to treat this disease through diet and exercise because I wanted to be healthier, not sicker. I did agree to take the mildest treatment the doctor offered, and even so, I became violently ill right away. It took several weeks for me to be able to tolerate that treatment, which I'm still on. It helped a little bit, but my body, it helped with some of the pain, but my body just kept declining, and the disease progressed. That fall, I was at Houston Quilt Festival, and I woke up one morning missing a significant amount of hearing in my right ear. Losing the hearing was really, really scary. But what was even scarier was the thought that I could lose the rest of the hearing in both ears at any moment. I'm a quilt teacher. If I can't hear what my students are saying, how can I teach? And what about the rest of my life? I understand that there are deaf people and they live, but this was new and I didn't want anything to do with it. So I kept working because I had contracts and I had jobs to go to. And I began having trouble swallowing. And my voice developed this permanent rasp that you've probably have heard. Eventually, toward the end of that year, I was able to get out of a chair. My legs just wouldn't hold me up. On the days I could get out of bed, my husband sat me at my sewing machine, and it took all the energy I had to make a single block. And I'll tell you that quilting was the best medicine ever. My eyesight took quite a beating during that time as well. For a while, I was going through about 4 different prescriptions a year, and I'm retroactively grateful for the eyesight that I used to have. I was able at times to start walking with a cane, and I still fell and hit the ground even while using the cane way too often. I have fallen in some of the finest conventions and airports this world has to offer, and people are very nice. They lift you up. It's great. But I dealt with all of this uncertainty in my body by quilting. I made this quilt behind me. It's called Future Perfect Tense. And I made this to process what was going on in my body. It's basically a calendar. It showed how my life was declining and how it fell apart and how slowly I was learning what new days could be that I was going to work through my new life. This helped me a lot emotionally, and it actually was a huge breakthrough for me as a quilt artist. This piece is hugely, hugely important to me, and I'm actually in my kitchen right now. That's where this hangs permanently. This is a really important piece in my life. By that new year, I had finally given in and decided to try those really scary treatments that my doctor had recommended. This medication is used in chemotherapy for cancer patients, but I was going to take a smaller dose and a different schedule. That didn't console me much. It didn't make me feel better at all. The medication caused my hair to fall out, so I cut off over 1 foot of hair. I had very long straight hair at the time. And while everyone publicly cheered my new short hairdo, in private I just wept. And I bought a wig and I carried it with me, waiting for the rest of my hair to fall out. That medication also caused me to be a little tired. And by a little tired, I mean 8-hour naps to wake up to go back to bed. It also made me avoid food, the smell of food, the thought of food. But perversely, I was taking medication that caused me to gain weight even while I was not eating. Some things in life are just not fair. Over the course of a few months, I began to adjust to that medication, and this has been years. My normal now, every single week, is 2 or 3 days of nauseous and very tired. I schedule that medication to make sure that my worst days are when I'm typically not traveling. My husband accompanied me on overseas trips to physically assist me, and he also acted as my ears in the classroom in case I lost my hearing. Since I kept my hearing, he got to have some good vacation time, but he came to be my personal assistant. He's been my rock. He's amazing. He's always been an amazing man, but he became an angel when I got sick. I never actually went completely bald, but I had some good bald spots that my hairdresser helped me cover as best we could. She's like, don't pull your hair back this way right now. You're kind of got some bald spots here. So I kept working. I kept quilting because that's what I do. I kept teaching because that's also what I do. I never knew, though, while I was traveling, how my body would fail me next. And I was rethinking my quilting life, because what if I had to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair? And how can I continue to stay involved as a quilting professional if I can't leave my house? Quilting isn't just my hobby, it's actually who I am. And if I'm losing my body, do I have to lose my identity too? I mean, there was a lot going on with me during all this time. But there were some happy moments in those dark years. I became a grandmother for the first time, and my grandson brought me the greatest joy possible, even on the days that I wasn't strong enough to hold his 4-pound body. I'd sit on a sofa and they'd place him on my lap. I was happy just to be able to touch him and look at him, and even the smell of him, if I couldn't hold him, was just so precious to me. I never knew that I would keep my hearing long enough to hear him call me grandma, but I have, which is wonderful. If you're a grandma, you know exactly what I mean. So I did develop a plan to work from home because it looked like it would be necessary sooner rather than later. So I filmed some DVDs of my classes for Handy Quilter on the Sweet 16. I designed a line of thread called Fabulux for Wonderful Specialty Threads Company. I began writing quilting patterns for the Cutie Patterns using the Fat 8s cuts of fabrics. And these were all wonderful things for me because I still got to share my love of quilting and my passion with people, but I was able to do more of it from home, so that was great. I also filmed several classes for Craftsy.com. Now, my first meeting with Craftsy was at Quilt Market in Houston, I think the following year. And it was actually the sickest I had ever been. My disease had impacted my heart and my lungs, and I had trouble breathing. So I could take about 5 or 10 steps before I broke out into an awful sweat and had to sit down and rest. And I was red, and my face was as wide as the moon. And even so, they hired me. And in my first Craftsy class, you can see I still have the very large steroid face, and you can hear my scratch in my voice, and my breathing is audible, so you can hear whenever I'm filming the sound of my breathing. There's some damage in my throat, and that's just the way it is. But the Craftsy classes have been wonderful because I can reach people that I can't reach by living on the road. That's just too much for me to do physically. My disease, again, kept getting worse, and my plan couldn't come together soon enough to work at home. My doctor then prescribed IV treatments to try to keep this disease from killing me bit by bit. And this was to be on top of all of the other medications I was already taking. And this medication, too, is used for cancer patients as a chemotherapy. I know this because I sit right next to them for 8 hours as they're pushing this treatment into my veins. It is an incredibly expensive solution that I think is made of unicorn tears or something like that. But I've been sitting through these infusions for 3 years now, and they've given me some hope. They fought the progression of my disease, and within several months I was able to walk without the use of my cane. After about a year, the disease was mostly under control, with just periodic flare-ups. If I traveled too much and let myself get worn down, my ears would catch on fire and my joints would start screaming at me. Every session of these IV treatments is a little bit harder for me to take than the one before. Fatigue, nausea, brain fog, and a weakened immune system are the biggest problems I have. And I take a lot of time off work to deal with this. Excuse me. It's safer for everyone for me to stay home when I can't really think clearly. But thankfully, I have only 6 treatments a year. One of them's tomorrow, which is why I don't have my normal Tuesday video. I'm explaining why I have to move my life around for you. My doctor, my husband, and I had serious talks about what this new life meant for me. Should I continue to travel and teach quilters, or should I quit and stay home? Just give up working altogether. I'm grateful that I have these options, but the decision is still incredibly difficult. My doctor knows that teaching quilting keeps my spirit alive. She said, "You have a passion, and if I could bottle what you have and give it to other patients, my job would be so easy." She knows that it keeps me healthier to do what I love to do. My husband has traveled with me, and he's seen me teach. "This is what you love to do," he told me. "Find the balance and teach as much as you can without risking your health." And that's what I've been trying to do. So I haven't been teaching at a lot of shows. I mostly teach at shops for Handy Quilter. And I look at my calendar a year at a time. And I schedule off my treatments, I schedule off some personal time, and then very carefully decide how much work to take. The second my dates are filled, I cannot squeeze one more event in. The risks for me traveling too much are far too high to say, sure, I'll just go fly off somewhere else. So once my calendar is full, I just have to say no. My doctor put in her 2 cents and my husband his, but mine were if I can help a single quilter gain skill in quilting to find her happy place in the midst of whatever is going on in her life, that the quilting can bring her the joy that it's been in my life during the hardest periods in my life, it's the best possible use of my time. So I'm continuing to try and travel and find a way to do what I love to do while staying as healthy as possible. After I went to the Tokyo Quilt Festival, 1.5, 2 years ago, my body fell completely apart again. And I was sure that was the beginning of the end all over again. The doctor threw every drug she had at me and we got the disease under control. But that's when I gave up international travel. I was sad, but mostly I was grateful because my life has been bigger than I've ever expected it to be. Who knew that learning how to quilt would get me to Russia and Dubai and to Australia 4 times, and England and Japan and elsewhere. It's just been fabulous. So my disease was under control, mostly. My travel was limited, but still my body was a wreck. I was in terrible pain all of the time. And the doctor knew what was happening, but I didn't want to take any more medications. I'm on so many medications that I really want to limit those. Last winter, though, my pain level left me in tears most days, and I finally called and said, whatever you want me to take, I'll take. So I did, and I'm speechless. Every day for the last 5 months, I can't find words to describe the difference in my life. As I stand up out of a chair, I brace myself against the pain, and the pain's not there, or not as much as it used to be. I now have hope that I'll live to see my grandsons grow up. Yeah, I snuck another grandson in there. I don't talk about them much online, but they are the 2 smartest and most attractive children in the entire state of Connecticut. That's just my opinion. I can walk stairs now, and I feel like Rocky every time that I do, running up a flight of stairs. Yes. I can work. I can think. And if you've been following along, I just took a 2-week trip to Europe. That was a test to see if this new health of mine can allow me to travel more. My husband came with me again to physically support me. And also, if this was to be our last international trip, we wanted to have a glorious time. We scheduled in rest time and kept me off planes as much as humanly possible. And it was lovely. I feel so good. I'm not 100% certain. I need to give it another week to see how my body will adjust. But I went to Europe and I feel great. This is just fabulous for me. So I want to tell you what my life looks like now. I didn't get my hearing back. I wear hearing aids in both ears, and I have 36 different ways to say, what? Beg your pardon? Can you repeat that? That's just the way it is. My left ear is very thick and scarred, and it makes it difficult to wear glasses behind it. It also makes it difficult to wear a hearing aid behind it, and I have both. Hence, my really skinny new glasses, because there's barely anything behind my ear. I also didn't get my vision back. My nose is still floppy. I lost the ability to hand sew, but I have machines, many beautiful quilting machines. My left knee is a hot mess, and it will bother me for the rest of my life, but that's okay. My voice is raspy. You can hear me breathe. I still have trouble swallowing at times. My hair is thinner than it used to be, and it's now curly. What? Where did this come from? I was shocked when I first saw it, and I still surprise myself walking by a mirror going, when did I get curly hair? Medications have weird side effects, so I've got curly hair. I'm covered all the time in huge black bruises from just the lightest touch. Here's one. That's why I wore sleeveless for you. It's a side effect of some of my medications. I often have to hide IV bruises with a tattoo cover whenever I'm teaching or filming. My face is often very, very bright red because I have inflammation. Tattoo cover works on that too. Otherwise, I'm this color all the time. Good news, I can predict the weather. My joints let me know what is happening with the weather. I can't drink any alcohol, none, ever. So I'm an involuntary teetotaler, but every once in a while I enjoy a sniff, a smell of my husband's wine. Now, rest days are serious business for me. As I travel, after I come home, I'm on a very strict regimen of rest, but it's keeping me going. I can't be exposed, I can't be exposed to the sun for more than a few minutes at a time, or else I'll blister immediately. Another side effect of my medications. I take absolutely insane amounts of medication daily and weekly. I also loathe my weekly bouts of nausea and my 6 times a year infusions with all of the side effects that come with those. But it's a beautiful life. So what am I doing with this new life of mine? I'm quilting and I'm teaching. And I get to spend this healthy season of my life doing exactly what I love to do with the people I love to do it with. If I had the choice to have never gotten sick and never had relapsing polycongitis, I would choose to be sick, because there is so much richness in my life that I would never have recognized if I hadn't been through these 5 very hard, dark years. I will likely get sick again. But until then, I'm enjoying absolutely every breath I take during this season of relative health, because today is a beautiful day. And tomorrow's a beautiful day too. I've already decided. So my medications and my treatments will not end until my body can no longer tolerate them. By then, I hope there'll be new medications that I can try. I'm not cured. My disease is not in remission. It is controlled by medication, and for that, I am very grateful. I am quilting, and after this, I will get back to talking about quilting and travel and Hello Kitty and chocolate cake. But I'm also going to show you some pictures that I haven't ever shown you, the times I spend in the hospital and the absolutely ridiculous things that happen there. So I wanted to include you in the rest of my life that I've been holding back from you. If you follow me online, you may see some pictures of me tomorrow from the hospital, because that's where I'll be all day. It's regular, it's scheduled, and there's nothing wrong. I know it's coming. I came home from France for this treatment. But you might see some pictures that I've been keeping from you, and you might understand why I can't have some online content as regularly as I do. I'm not feeling well after my treatments. But I want to thank you for being patient with me during the last 5 years. My friends, my family, the quilters in my community who know what's going on with me have been absolutely supportive and fantastic. And I thank them for their patience, and I just wanted to let everyone know I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm doing great. So thank you, and I'll be back to my regular Hello Kitty and chocolate cake and quilting posts tomorrow. Thanks for the love, everyone. Bye.